Welcome to The Shift Show with Adriana Bucci. Join me every week to learn all about narcissistic abuse recovery, healing from physical and emotional pain after the abuse, and everything else to do with toxic people and how they affect your physical, emotional, and mental health. And no, you are not the crazy one. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Let's get right to it. Welcome to episode number 12. This is going to be all about covert narcissists and what to watch out for and what you can do if you find yourself in a relationship or in any type of relationship, really, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, a coworker, a family member who is a covert narcissist. So covert narcissists are the ones that I tend to talk about the most in general. These are the ones that you will have a problem with. So there's overt narcissists and covert narcissists. So the overt ones are the obvious ones, right? Like you see them in politics and you know exactly what they're all about. I'm not going to name any names. And, you might see them on like reality TV and you know right away that this person's an asshole and they don't care like whose feet they step on. They're just going to get what they want. And like you can tell right away, right? So these ones are the easy ones to figure out because you already know what's going on. A covert narcissist is the one that you need to really watch out for because realistically, a covert narcissist, or I just like to call them narcissists in general, they're not going to just introduce themselves to you and be like, hey, I'm a raging narcissistic sociopath. Just thought I'd warn ya. No, they don't do that. They mimic the behavior of a normal person so that you think that they are a normal person. And they reel you in with kind gestures. They might even seem like a really good person. So there's something called a communal covert narcissist. So these are people who do good things for the community, right? They could be involved with charity. They could be part of some sort of nonprofit organization or something. They might be in the field of like helping people. So they might be counselors, they might be coaches, they might be psychiatrists. Regardless, they make themselves look like they are here to help the greater good. And it's not until you actually start working with them that you realize that they're actually narcissistic. And this can be extremely confusing because they put up this front and you really have no clue until, you're stuck in their trap for some reason, right? So maybe you are in a relationship with this person and at first they just seem like such a great person and it's like, oh wow, they're involved in all these great things. They really care. They're a massive philanthropist, whatever. And it's important to just be aware that not everyone who is into helping other people is a covert communal narcissist, obviously. But they are like, they're lurking around there, right? Like they're a wolf in sheep's clothing. So, you automatically have this opinion of them when you first meet them that they're a great person. And they do this on purpose to set themselves up, their image up, to look like a really decent stand-up person, right? And I'll just give an example really quickly of what a romantic relationship with a covert narcissist might look like. And you could also apply this to, like your parents or family members or whoever. But the easiest way for me to describe this would be in a sense where you're like dating this person or romantically involved with them. So there's a definite relationship cycle, and it might look something like this. So you meet the person, they're great. They take you out on really nice dates, you go to nice restaurants, you get a lot of compliments from them, and then they start saying stuff like they've never met anybody like you before. They can see themselves falling for you really quickly. They want to get married, move in together, have babies as soon as possible, and everything needs to be done as soon as possible because they're just so overwhelmed with love for you, but like it's actually all fake. But it feels real to you at the beginning because that would feel real to anybody, and it depends how good they are at convincing you, and they can be pretty damn convincing. that you are eating this all up. And if you're an empath, you're very likely to be persuaded by somebody like this, because it's like, oh, finally, someone's finally seeing me. And you feel seen and understood and respected by this person finally, right? Because everyone else around you, you just keep attracting narcissists. And sure enough, here you are, and you forget that the beginning of other narcissistic relationships probably started off very similarly. And it might seem that this is a normal way for relationships to start off in general. And even in like a friendship, you find a new friend and they want to hang out with you all the time. And, like finally they have this friend that understands them and whatever. So stuff like that, right? And essentially, this is done to trap you, basically, right? So you're feeling secure, you're feeling safe with this person, you've told them all your secrets, and all of a sudden the first little fight will happen and it'll be something really random and it'll be all your fault. You hurt them, you did something wrong, you breathed wrong, you made an innocent mistake and they blew it out of proportion. Or they might even say that you know what you did and they're just not going to tell you because you should know what you did. And it really makes no sense. And you just find yourself in a state of confusion. And then, if you pull back, the cycle will continue and then they'll try to win you over again. So this is how they manipulate you. And then once they win you over again, they start apologizing and it's a fake apology. And then, you forgive them, you forgive yourself, and then, you're back in the honeymoon stage. And then sure enough, another fight's going to happen. And this is a cycle that continues over and over and over. And it's because they are so good at convincing you that you're such a great person and all that, you are hooked. Like they know exactly how to hook you because they make you feel safe. They make you feel seen, even though they just picked a fight with you over something completely random or something that didn't even happen at all, right? And, most people are able to see where they've gone wrong in a relationship, right? Like, I'm not saying that we're all perfect and empaths are perfect people. No, like, I've done my fair share of making mistakes in all kinds of relationships, but at the end of the day, it takes a normal person to be able to recognize that they've made a mistake, own up to it, apologize, you move on with life. The narcissist, especially the covert narcissist, they will just blame everything on you, and they have absolutely zero responsibility in the fight. And it's not until you start to pull away and maybe start gray rocking them or start limiting contact or deciding to break up with this person that's when they might start manipulating you and saying, oh no, you're right, I was wrong, like I really want you to stay in my life, da 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 da. And it takes a few cycles of this before you get it. And the first fight, whatever, it's easy to dismiss it like a misunderstanding, whatever, but when you see it's a pattern like this, and chances are it is a pattern if you're listening to this podcast, you need to get the fuck out of there. Like, you need to cut and run. And, hopefully you don't live with this person. And with the way the situation in the world is right now, hopefully you don't live with them and you're in quarantine and you can get the hell out that way. If you are living with them, that is another story. That's when you probably need to get like a lawyer involved, or, if they're being physically violent with you, that's when you need to get the authorities involved and whatnot. But yeah, so when you start noticing this pattern, you need to get the hell out of that relationship. I don't care how much they say they're going to change, blah, blah, blah. If this has been a pattern and they're narcissistic, but they keep saying they're going to change, and then they never do, stop wasting your time. And I'll get into tips on how to be able to do that. A few more points on how to notice a covert narcissist is they manipulate the way other people see them, right? So They're abusive with a few people. They're not abusive with everybody. So that's the other difference between covert and overt narcs, right? So the overt ones are pretty much abusive with anyone in their path, and that's how you can recognize them. And, you know, if you talk to somebody else about that person, they'll also agree with you that, oh, this person, you know, we shouldn't really associate with them because they kind of suck. A covert narc, they manipulate the way other people view them. So let's imagine a relationship situation again. They will charm your friends. They will be so charming around your friends and make sure that your friends like them, so that when they start taking their mask off and you start confiding in your friends will start to think that you're crazy. And this is something that is really difficult to deal with, because a lot of the time other people, they don't know about narcissistic abuse, right? So chances are you don't have a friend who's like a super expert in knowing about these types of people, because, you know, you really just become an expert in it when you've dealt with so many of them throughout your life. And, you know, they can't exactly warn you. They're just going to take this person at face value, which is what people generally do. So they seem like a decent, normal person. They're going to take that at face value. And then when you tell them about a fight you got in, they might not believe you. Hopefully they do, and they're a good friend. But sometimes they don't. And then they start enabling the narcissist's behavior. And then you start feeling like you're crazy. So it's important to understand that you are not crazy at all. And if you're being made to feel like the crazy person, I need you to understand that no, you are not going crazy. And, you know, the best way to deal with a covert narc is by not dealing with them at all. And eventually, as these cycles of abuse continue, you'll start finding yourself walking on eggshells all the time, having to repress your truest feelings and emotions to keep that person happy. You know, you can't really speak your truth to them. And if you do, you know, it's either going to start a fight or it's going to turn into what a piece of shit you are. And, you know, it's maddening. And then you're living in a state of persistent anxiety. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop all the time. And you're living in a state of persistent dread. And all of these things ramp up your nervous system, and they keep your mind and body in a consistent state of fight, flight, or freeze. And eventually, you just start seeing life as just dangerous in general, right? So, you know, your nervous system's imbalanced, your body's imbalanced, your mind is imbalanced, and you're just confused as hell. So the best way to deal with the fact that you need to cut this person out of your life completely is by doing the deep inner emotional work. So this is not always easy, but it makes it a lot easier to actually make that cut in your life. So if you're at that point where you know you're done with this person, you're able to just cut them out, you're still going to have emotions either way. So processing your emotions is going to be super helpful for you as you move through this, depending whatever stage you're in of dealing with a covert narcissist. Processing your emotions is going to be the most important thing that you do, because that's going to help you to clear your head. That's going to help you to be less confused, because if you've been in this situation for a while and you're always in a state of confusion, that state of confusion is a result of repressing emotions. So you're not allowed to feel a certain way. And if you do feel a certain way, you're wrong. So that's confusing. And then they're doing all this nice stuff, so you should feel good about that. And that's confusing. So the repressed emotions, I think, are very underrated when it comes to healing. Like, it's going to be such an important step for you. So one free way to unrepress those repressed emotions, which I talk about in probably a bunch of my episodes so far, is to journal. So grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, start writing about anything, whatever's on your mind. If you go off topic, that's fine. If you want to write a swear word over and over for 20 minutes, that's fine. Regardless, just write, set a timer for 20 minutes, and then once that 20 minutes is over, rip up the paper. If you can't write because you have like wrist pain or something like that, I get it. I used to have carpal tunnel before I started doing my own emotional processing work. You can use dictation software or, a word processor, whatever works for you. But if you're physically capable of putting a pen to a paper, do that, because that is going to help you the most. And that's going to be the hardest thing for you to do, because your brain is not going to want you to do it, because your brain is terrified of the repressed emotions. And your brain is terrified of the consequences of having these emotions that you think are wrong because someone else keeps telling you that they're wrong. So definitely make sure that you're processing your emotions. And that's a free way of doing it. There's other ways of doing it as well. There's online support groups. So read other people's stories online. There's, Reddit has so many forums about toxic relationships, and there's so many, like, just if you do a Google search for narcissistic relationship forum, you'll see so many people with their stories, and that will also help you to feel a little bit less like you're going crazy, because you're not. Someone's manipulating you, and if someone's manipulating you, that doesn't mean you're going crazy. It means someone is manipulating you, and you're a normal person. You believe what people tell you because, if you've had no reason to believe someone's lying, we don't automatically just assume that someone's lying to us just because, right? So it's important to understand that you are not going crazy, and whatever proof you need to get to make sure of that, go gather that proof. And then, there's also, you could deal with a counselor, a coach, whatever it is that's right for you at this time to emotionally process the situation is going to be whatever is right for you. So definitely reach out to a counselor or a coach or anybody. I'm always taking on new clients. Narcissistic abuse is definitely my specialty. I'll leave the link in the episode details if this does interest anybody. And I do also offer a course on processing your emotions. And this is going to help you unrepress emotions, get out of physical pain, get out of emotional pain, and use the inner emotional work to deal with a narcissist. But whatever route you take, just make sure that you are processing emotions. Look into mind-body syndrome, the mind-body connection, and there's other exercises out there on the internet in regards to that will help you to process emotions. But definitely start with the journaling. If you really don't know where to start, journaling is the best place to start, and do that for a couple of weeks, and then you'll notice just this sense of calm. You'll notice that things start making more sense. You'll be able to put things into perspective more without being so confused about your emotions, about your feelings. So give it a try and do whatever it is that you need to do to get the hell out of that relationship with the narcissist. So I hope this episode's been helpful. Tune in next Wednesday for our next episode. Enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon, whatever time it is in the world, wherever you are. Bye.